Perfect. Hello, and you're very welcome to another edition of the JMac Podcast. I am John McGrath, and today I'm joined by former Wicklow footballer John McGrath. And of course, guys, this podcast is sponsored by Orga Retrowear, a great website to get all your hands on the retro gear, and it's a fantastic website, obviously, during this lockdown. So get on it, Orga Retrowear, for all your retro need jerseys. John McGrath, how's things with you, my man?
Great, doing very well.
You're happy out, and I suppose I'm probably boring listeners with this question, but John, how you find the last year and COVID and everything that goes with it, I suppose?
Yeah, it's been up and down. There's been some tough times. The same as everybody else, kind of struggling with some parts, but mainly just dealing with it, getting on with it, accepting what's been thrown at us, and thankfully we had a baby girl just at the start of it as well, in April, and that's kept us more than busy in the house without having to leave it at all. So it's been great. It's been really good for me now. Good time for it.
Yeah, Jesus, great stuff. And I like it. It's probably a question I really ask everyone at this stage, and it's a change in circumstances. We had the GA as elite last year. We had the championship. We had everything that went with it, and the government have done a bit of U-turn and turned it to not being elite now. What's the verdict on that, John?
Yeah, I don't really know. It's a hard one to call. Like, you can understand. Look, you can understand both sides. Again, like the side of a GA player having to get up the morning after training and go to work. Obviously proves that it's not elite. And that the contacts are probably going to be higher than an elite sports person. That if you're playing rugby or soccer or a professional sport, that is your work. So look, you can understand that side, but look, please God, we get some good news in the next few weeks, and it starts to ease a bit and lift, and look, hopefully there'll be some kind of football coming by the start of the second quarter, maybe.
Yeah, geez, fingers crossed. I think, because there's only so much soccer I can watch. I find it very hard to watch 90 minutes of soccer. I support Man United, and God, geez, they'd send you around the block. But I suppose, moving on to matters with yourself, John, you represented Wicklow from 2007 to 2018, and you played for a DIT college team as well from 2009 to 2013. You tagged on a season with DIT, very impressive stuff in 2013. But first of all, we will touch on your Wicklow days. 2007, you're no spring chicken, I suppose, John. So you broke onto the panel, and obviously a very good Wicklow team at that time, John. And what was it like to break onto it?
It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. There are days that at the time we didn't appreciate them as much as we do now. Back in it, there really were golden years under Miko. It was I'd come off the back of playing Wicklow under 21s, and we had a very, very strong under 21 team, and quite a few of us were drafted up at the end of the 21s championship into the squad in 2007. And yeah, it was kind of coming into the championship. There was it was normal Miko. It was like, yeah, early the year was plenty of running around the pitch, but when the sun was shining, it was just football every single night, 15 on 15, and it was just the way football should be played. Just arriving to training and just playing game after game after game, and that's kind of it's kind of underestimated how valuable it is to a team. Like there was very little talk of tactics or anything, but by playing together, you understood one another. Like, so it was brilliant. We played loud in the first round of the championship, and it was a draw. And then the replay was when I got my first taste of playing for Wicklow, and I came on. Went to extra time, and I came on right at the end of the night, normal time for extra time. Great feeling, absolutely brilliant feeling. And then that was actually a draw again, and then I made my starting debut in the third game against Louth in Croke Park. Brilliant, just brilliant to be involved in. Yeah, I have fond memories now when looking back on it.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose I was chatting to Dennis Glennon earlier on, and it seems to be the Kerry Gold Dust that was kind of sprinkled on counties. Like, you had Mickle Dwyer and Wicklow, and obviously Paddy O'Shea and Westmeath. And I suppose it's like anything else. What was it like to actually be under the helm of the great Mickle Dwyer? Because I'll say no more about the man's career. Like he's won it all, he's done it all. You know, you're probably in awe of him, really, John.
Yeah, definitely, and it is. It's some kind of things disappoint me at the time. I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I do now. Really, like when you're younger, you're going into an intercounty setup, and at the time when you made a Wicklow team at that time, you knew you were in the top 30 players in the county, and to be drafted in was amazing. But at the time, you probably were hoping for a bit more. You're probably looking for more, maybe conditioning and coaching, and he probably didn't bring that. But it's only now when you look back, it's like it was what he done for me, kind of mentally and kind of with positive football is far outweighs anything else. I think his mindset was incredible. You really would feel on top of the world when he spoke to you. Now there's probably the downside of those days if his top 15 were his best chums, so when you're in it you were his best friend, and he made his business to get around to keep you keep on your side and talk to you. If you weren't in it, maybe there was a little bit of a cold shoulder, but there was days where you couldn't kick the ball wide after talking to him. I know there was one morning just going in off the pitch, he said to me, it was just one morning randomly, just said like, "Geez, John, I tell you, if you were in Kerry you'd win All-Star after All-Star." Like, and to obviously looking back, like he was lying. We looking back on it now, you know that he just, when he says something, whether it's true or not, you believed it. I tell you, the following for that month, it was great. I was on top of the world and playing really, really well, and that was kind of what he brought to it. He made every player feel like they were playing to the best of their ability, and that just got another 10 or 15% out of you again. So yeah, he was incredible now, especially when you're young. I suppose he made you feel even bigger and stronger than what you really were.
Yeah, and I suppose you're obviously like Wicklow. It's Ockram, and God, I remember Cavan. I think it was 2009. His Bettis famously, I don't know. It was a massive off day for us, and like he's definitely had some massive giant killings in Ockram, and I always would have said it's a massive stomping ground for you, and great success over there over the years. Like, and like what was it like kind of playing them kind of rough conditions, like kind of like a tight pitch like that was, like, you know, did you feel you got the best out of that pitch over the years? Like, do you feel you could have had more success against teams in that kind of tight surface?
Yeah, well, I look, there was times we punched above our weight, and times we kind of faltered. Like league for the 5 years Mick was there in the league, we probably didn't play to the levels we should have. But when the hard ground came in, he gave us plenty of football. It was championship, and he spoke. He never hid the fact he loved championship football. So that's all he cared about, and that's how we primed his team. So yeah, when we got teams down in Ockram, come the summer, it was great. It was really, really good. Like there's just moments where you just love to be kind of be kind of just have played more and more a part. I know at the time, in 2007 I made my debut, but in 2008 I missed out in the championship because of suspension. From a suspension I took up in the under 21 championship, and then 2009 I missed the championship with a broken collarbone. So there's some things that you kind of look back on, and you really wish you were more in the circle at the time, but to be even just part of it and still in there with him and just learning was incredible, really good.
Yeah, and I suppose them early years as well, like it's, you know, I think, and it's probably a question I kind of ask all kind of former players, but like the game kind of has changed so much, John, and like it's gone defensive, and you know there's kind of tactics. It's got so tactical, and like I suppose the best thing you can ask is, you know, from say 2007 to, you know, up until maybe 2010, 11, when things weren't too bad and a bit open football, what was it like to kind of play in them years? Because it definitely looked enjoyable, and it was a nice kind of style of like open style football, which I'm presuming you would have enjoyed.
Yeah, like I was definitely, I'm not now, and I'm definitely when I was younger not the biggest of fellas. So yeah, I'd say if I had came along maybe in 2012, 13, 14, I probably could have been finished playing inter-county football before I even started. But it was brilliant. You knew going out onto the pitch that if you got the better of your man, you were going to have a good day. That's not the case. I suppose now you get the better of your man, there could be 2, 3, 4 of a wall in front of you again. So yeah, it was really enjoyable. It was football that you just got to see boys kicking the ball. Like we all love to receive a ball that's kicked to you from space, from a distance, because it means there's more space around you then as well. But yeah, look, there's sometimes you miss that. It'd be nice to get back and play a little bit of that, but at the same time, I'm intrigued with the way the game kind of changes every few years. I like the way I like thinking away around the game, and especially I say there's a lot of coaches out there that really enjoy the thought of having to think their way through a game as well. But definitely, like, look, we'd all like to go back and play a bit of kicking football. It'd be lovely.
Yeah, geez, without a doubt. And yeah, like I suppose it's hard to avoid them. And you share the same competition as them in Leinster, and you know, I know Wicklow probably would have kind of find it hard enough in Leinster over the years. But what was it like to kind of play in Leinster over the years, John? Because like, look, the championship is the be all and end all for players. Everyone loves. Everyone always gets pumped up for it. But you know, over the years, it was probably unfortunately an early enough knockout for you, and you know, he's always would have knocked in good league campaigns. But like, what was it like to kind of play in Leinster over the years, maybe up until the Dublin dominance, so we can revert maybe back to maybe 07 to 2010, 2011. Like, every year did you feel you could have gave the Leinster competition a good run?
Yeah, we do. I suppose it depends on players as well. Like, as a group, especially in that period when I started off. Yeah, you always felt like you could win a couple of games, and we did. There was a couple of times Westmeath in particular twice beat us. Again, they were the same years that I was injured and suspended, but they were like years that you really thought you could have a run. Like, you really thought you could get semi-final stage. Like, unfortunately, Wicklow, we haven't been to a Leinster semi-final since '95. We haven't been to a Leinster final, I think, in, I don't know, maybe 80, 90 years. Like the aim personally for me going out was always to try and win 2 games in Leinster, which hadn't been done in a long time for a Wicklow team. So yeah, there was always that thought you could. But then as the years passed on, it's a little bit tougher. Look, you needed a really good league campaign to kind of get that little bit of positivity into you, and kind of a little bit of ambition throughout the squad to say, look, we can try and do something. We went through a bit of a spell later on that look, they're all difficult. We know Dublin have the dominance of winning it, but when you fall back into the rest of the group, everybody was a really, really tight championship outside of Dublin. Really, like. That we got over some teams, but we never got to win the 2 back-to-back games to put us into a Leinster semi-final. That would have been a nice one, but
yeah, definitely. And I suppose when you look at it, definitely, what are we talking? 11 years with the Wicklow senior football team, John, and like how enjoyable was it over the years? Because like everyone, like, do you feel like a lot of the comments towards your county over the years, oh God, because it always comes up in conversation, like the weaker counties, like the likes of Leitrim and Wicklow and Louth and bits and pieces. But like, what did you make of them kind of comments? Like, would that have, like, if you were, like, I'm always of the opinion the Wicklows and all these counties are working as hard as the biggest and best teams. Would that kind of frustrated you over the years, hearing the likes of, like, kind of getting slated? Like, because I know for a fact you gents would have been working as equally hard as the Dubs and Kerrs of this world.
Yeah, it's something. It is something that I think of a lot, and I do as a Wicklow player. We would have, hours-wise, we would have trained as much as other counties, we would have done as much, both on and off the pitch in the gym pitch. I think we probably lacked a little bit for a long time. Probably the look in Wicklow. When fresh management come in, it's a case of we're so far down the bottom of the pecking order that we need to do more to get up there. and unfortunately, by doing more, sometimes that means you're overdoing it. It's important to be at peak of your powers for the important games, and it looks, personally looking back, and I think there might be too much going on to try and compete where you need to. Like, it's very hard for a county, a group, or an individual to get stronger, to get fitter, to get faster, to get their body fats down all at once. It's not possible. You can't lift big in the gym and get your body fats down and be very fast in the pitch at the same time. So it's lack of kind of going through it properly, maybe filtering out the season a little bit better. It's been tough at times.
Yeah, and the biggest thing you could probably say is when Mick O'Dwyer left, like, we kind of, like, what was the feelings after when he did leave? Do you feel he did kind of progress or regress? Because they were good years for you, like, no better man to get in and kind of regroup you and, you know, get a bit of a run going in various competitions. But do you feel, like, personally yourself, did you regress as a county when he did leave, or did you push on a bit, or what was the opinion on that?
No, we actually did push on. We had a fantastic year the year after he left. So Miko in 2011, again, we didn't compete in the league, and then the championship again, there was a push, and we drew with Armagh up in Armagh, and then the replay, I think Armagh won by 4 points in 2011. But the following year, a new management came in, Harry Murphy from Rathnew, who won quite a few championships with Rathnew at that stage, and it was incredible. We lost our first 2 league games, and things were not looking good. And then all of a sudden, we just got a win, and then we got another win, and we got promoted. And it was what we tried for 5 years, even though we weren't talking about it, even though Miko wasn't talking about promotion for the 5 years. Everybody expected it because Miko was the manager. And then when he left, Harry came in, and it was great. I think it was great losing the first 2 games, but then promotion was kind of gone and no one thought about it. And then you just focus on the next game, and it was great. It was a building block, and it really started to go good. And we went to Croke Park and played Fermanagh then the league final, and we won silverware in Croke Park, and that was incredible. It was incredible, like, to for Wicklow to what we're known as to win silverware in 2007 and then 2012 in space of 5 years was incredible. It was lovely, and a great turnaround. And personally, that was the year after I'd been ill with leukemia, like, so it was just a magical year, like, so we had a nice lift, and then the same thing 2012 in Division 3, and we just we just weren't prepared for that. I think Monaghan had just come down to Division 3, and I think it was me. I can't remember who it was somebody else, but it was so strong. It was so competitive that year, and we went straight back down. And that was probably what set us back a bit. At that time, a few of our players that had played week in, week out for 5, 6, 7 years kind of all fell off together then in the space of a year or 2 years between 2013 or 14.
Yeah, like I was kind of saying it then, Scanlon, as well. Like we're talking 10, 11 years. Dublin have won the Leinster competition, 10 plus years. Like, and it just goes to show, like, every Leinster final, and obviously you looking on over the years, how frustrating it probably was to see Dublin winning every Leinster final by 15, 20 points. And just goes to show, if you had a Wicklow or like a Westmeath or a Meath actually winning it, like, how much it'd mean to them, like, and how special it'd be. Like, how kind of annoying is it kind of looking on when you're watching Dublin just stroll to all these Leinster final wins, when you just love it, when it would be fantastic if the likes of Kildare, your Wicklow, Westmeath could get to a final, win it. It'd just mean the world to you. Yeah,
it would. It is. It's very sad to think like that, how the joy we feel when we win a championship game. And I mean, like, the joy I know after some games, after winning a random first round championship in, I think, 2013 or 14 against Longford, and like, we're on the beer for 3 days. Like, Like that's the joy we got with winning a championship game. I know it's sad to think of it when Dublin are strolling to Leinster titles. They're not. Yeah, I know they still enjoy it and they celebrate it, but like the joy it would bring just to every other county to be able to go out and do it. Like we saw how this, like when Meath won it in 2009, it was incredible for them. But like you saw what happened with Louth when Louth lost it, like what was taken away from them for a team that so long, what it would have meant to them to win it. Look, we just hope somebody somewhere along the line just magically appears and is able to beat Dublin and somebody gets that joyous day, the same as Cavan and Tipperary got this year in the Munster and Leinster Ulster Championships. They're magical for teams. Even watching teams celebrating when they win like that it's uplifting for everybody.
Yeah, and nearly the sad thing is, me technically didn't even really win that Leinster. Like, I think Joe Sheridan would have a lot to say about that. That's for another day's chat, unfortunately. And I suppose kind of pushing off from that, John, 2018 was your last year playing for Wicklow, and I suppose what was the deciding factor to kind of finish up, John? Did you just feel like that was the end of that, or that's all you could offer, really?
I had quite a few tough years. My last few years were very tough. Body wise, I've quite a lot of hip problems, and I'm just an obsessive person when it comes to wanting to train and wanting to just impress a management team. It mightn't all seem that way, but I was just training through and trying to keep management happy when I was in pain. So you're trying to manage as best you can. You're trying to manage your gym sessions, your pitch sessions, do everything you can, and then it just used to take. I needed hours every week on my mobility and on my flexibility and my stretching and my foam rolling, and I mean hours every week. To try and get ready for the next session, which was always come the next night, whether it was gym or a pitch session. So it was difficult, but I wouldn't take it back either. I wanted to do it. I wanted to get the best out of myself and the most out of myself. I just probably have quite a few regrets on not just stepping away a little bit in terms of my training loads, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is playing well on the Sunday. And doesn't really matter what you do in the previous 6 days, or what you do in the previous 6 days is to get ready for that. And I was loading up way too much, and I wasn't getting the performances on the Sunday. So for a couple of years, I kind of just had a couple of more, just found it more and more difficult with my hip and back, really. And then John Evans came in, started 2018, and it was a tough year to train through, but again, one I enjoyed in terms of we beat Offaly in the first round of Leinster, and that was one of those things that we got that Leinster championship win, that the joy after was as if we'd won something, as if we'd won a cup, like. So yeah, it was brilliant, but I knew that was the end of it, in terms of just not being able to manage my load. Now look, if a new management had to come in there and got an understanding of me personally and the way my body works, and there was something to work with, I might have given it a second thought. But it was just a case of just not being able to train the way 30 other players could train at the same time. Just made a decision for me.
Yeah, and we can't leave Wicklow without mentioning Leighton Glynn, John. Every time I think we came up, we would have played you a lot over the years, but tell me a bit about Leighton Glynn, his preparation, his training methods, and just how he carried himself on the field, John.
Yeah, I still am a little bit mystified with him. He was just a genius. He really was. It's very, very hard to say that when we used to play against them every year. But he really was. I personally, from what I know of him. Like he didn't do more than anybody else in training wise. He was just one of these freaks that just was really, really good. His ability, his speed, his agility was just incredible. And what he had a burning desire to win, and he had a burning desire to do whatever it took to win. So look, when you put that into a little genius as well, it's going to be hard stopped. And like we all seen, like he got man the match against the Aussies as well, representing Ireland. So it shows just how good he was. He was just a strong individual, but yet you very rarely see him in the gym. He was playing so many games between hurling and football that he didn't need to train. He was just always at the peak of his powers. So it was about managing his load, and because he was so good, he was going to be allowed to do that by whatever manager was there. So like he was just a genius, really.
Yeah, Jesus. I think that's the best words we can give Leighton. Jeez, he was always an outrageous player for you over the years. And so we can touch on your college days, John, as well. You represented DIT from 2009 to 2013, and you tagged on a Sigerson Cup in 2013, all thanks to the Cavan lads. Telling me this, John, college football, great crack.
Great crack, yeah. Some days are too much crack, yeah. It was brilliant, yeah. I suppose probably a little bit different from my first year to my last year. Was very different, I think. The first year was full of crack, where you just couldn't be kept in. You were planning how you were going to get out every week before the game or after the game, and it was just talking about what you were going to do as a group after the game. Really, it was great crack. I know one regret I have was we played actually UCC in Sigerson in 2009, or would it be the second semester, so it would come in 2010. And the game finished 6 points apiece and went to extra time, and we lost. And I just remember being devastated because like the few nights before that, I was planning, I was off to drink that week, and it was the week of my birthday, and I was feeling like that it's my birthday, I'm not going to drink though because of the game. I think it was on Thursday or something, and when we actually went down into downtown onto Harcourt Street, and by the time we got there, it wasn't meant to be drinking, but by the rigs and reels of it, we ended up locked. And it was one of those things. The game was only 2 or 3 days after, and when the game finished 6 points apiece, I just remember being devastated because I just had this really bad feeling of thinking, like, Jesus, if we had if I hadn't drank, maybe I was worth one more point to the team or something. But the difference between that and the following years was incredible. That it really got very serious. There was some really good coaches came in. The players were just phenomenal. To train like as a Wicklow fella, like I know you put a Wicklow fella into a team of great players. They fit in fairly well. Like I won 2 rank cups with DIT as well, starting wing forward and centre forward and those, and you feel as if you're as good as them. But like there was some incredible players to play with that you just learn. I just learned so much from some of them. The way they carry themselves, the way they handle themselves, what they do when they're off nights. They were just some incredible players. And yeah, the 2013 they capped it off with an incredible win on the weekend, and with quite a few Cavan boys there. Yeah.
Oh, it's good to have the Cavan lads about. And I suppose kind of playing college football, John, like, and it is a big juggling act because obviously you have your club, you have county, and you have college. Like, how did you find kind of juggling it over the years, John? Because like it's a lot to handle, I suppose.
It is, yeah. It's probably something I didn't manage too well. I just, there's something that always stood out with me was I remember a manager saying to me about a player that wasn't particularly good for a team years ago, and he was asked the question about like why are you playing him, and he just said like that because he's by far our best trainer, so it's impossible to leave him off the pitch. And that always kind of stood to me, that if you impress your manager, well, then he's the only person that decides whether you play or not, the management team. So he's the only person you should really look to impress. And I suppose I didn't manage it too well when I was training so much with DIT, training so much with Wicklow at the same time in around November, December and January. That I didn't help anybody then. It was taking away from me more than actually benefiting. So in that regard, it was very tough. But I think that was more self-inflicted. Some managers were very understanding, and they'd say, yeah, if you need to take a day, you need to take a day. But that was just the lay of the land that I chose to kind of train a bit with Wicklow when I should have really been stepping away, because the Sigerson was, that time of the season was more important than the start of the league. But it's part and parcel of it. You have to get on with it and accept it and move on.
Yeah. Of course, this podcast is sponsored by Orga Retrowear. Check them out for all the latest retro gear. You'll not be disappointed. And I suppose, Sean, playing in the Sigerson competition over the years, like in DCU, like an array of talent, and even UCD there as well. Like, and I suppose DCU, in fairness, I think they're always kind of known for kind of getting the best players. And so, what was it like to kind of come up against some of them teams over the years, John? Because you're studied players, class acts all over the place. Yeah,
it really is. It was a real golden time, I think, for football, was around that time. Whether it was because of coming off the back of the recession or not, but there was just so many footballers going back to college and doing something. It was incredible. DCU, just their, like we in 2013, DIT had, I don't know whether it was 27 or 28 inter-county footballers on it, but DCU had that year in, year out for a long time. They were just incredible. Like, but you could go through a lot of colleges. I know UL beat us in 2011, and at the time we didn't really know too much about them. But on reflection of it, they had a full team of inter-county footballers with David Moore, Anthony Marr, Brian Fox, Philip Austin, Sean Armstrong. Like, all these colleges were just riddled with inter-county footballers, and it was incredible to just be at matches and see the quality that was on shows. Was really, really impressive.
Yeah, I suppose, and how enjoyable was it all as well, John? Because obviously you had great success in 2013, winning Sigerson, like great times, and I can remark on some of the players: David Gibney, Aidan O'Shea, Martin Riley, and extremely good players, Darren O'Sullivan, I think, as well, and Colin Walsh. I just top of the head, I can remember some of them boys having great success. Like, even kind of bouncing the days of them, watching their, like, how they train and all that kind of crack, John. Like, how enjoyable was all that over the years?
As in to actually train with them.
Yeah, play with them and everything. Yeah.
No, it was, they were look, a lot of them were actually were a bit younger than me as well at the time. Because when I went back to college, I was actually 22. So they were a couple of years younger than me, but I was the one that I soaked up as much information as I could from them, because I knew the environments they were playing in. Like, there were, for example, the Sigerson weekend was great crack, and we stayed on the hotel down there, and it was at Lowen, and it was great crack, and I think a couple of the rooms had PlayStations in them and guys gathering in it. But I just was in awe of O'Shea. Like, he was just getting his recovery. He was going to his room. He was putting his skins on. He was drinking as much fluids as he could. That was just something that really stuck with me. I was just like, this guy is here to do a job. Yeah, we can have the crack, and it's great, but he was there to do a job. His professionalism really stood out to me. It was something that I just tried to pick up as much of those little things from as many players. The same, you mentioned a few players there, like, and just some of the subtle little things they might do or say at a training session. Like, Colin Walsh was great. That he was like just an ox of a man, but he spoke to you as if he was just your younger brother or your bigger brother, like. But he'd always speak very, very fondly of everybody else and of his teammates, and those type of things kind of stand out to you rather than the kind of the nitty gritty kind of giving out about lads that might have been kind of in my early days in DIT might have been a part of it, but those guys were just so professional in everything they did. It was incredible.
Yeah. Like, what was it like to get over the line in 2013 as well, John? Because like Sigerson is always so competitive. Like you've UJ, UCD, DCU. So how special of a feeling was it to get over the line with the lads that you're just probably in college with for so many years, and the camaraderie is obviously fantastic. So brilliant feeling.
Yeah, no, same as the same as anything. When you win anything, when you win silverware, it's easy. There's no everything just seems easier, and everyone's your best friend, and everybody is there for one another. It was incredible like that. The few weeks leading into it were tough. We had 3 O'Byrne Cup games leading into it. They kind of, I think they set us back a little bit with a couple of defeats, but we had come off the back of an O'Byrne Cup or of a Ryan Cup winning before Christmas. And like the crack we had even after winning that was brilliant, but we just had something different in 2013 compared to the other 3 years, that everybody was kind of on the same wavelength. And look, that's a lot of that goes down to management as well. They would have installed a couple of things at the start of the year where we had a nice bit of crack together and a couple of nights away, which always helps the team bond. But I think the silverware and the Ryan Cup really kind of united us as well. Like a couple of nights out after that, and once you get through to the Sigerson, then it just kind of game by game tipped away was great. And getting over the line then in the final was, geez, the euphoria. Those guys jumping around, it was brilliant. Really, really good now, yeah.
Yeah, and like you obviously represented DIT 09, 2010, 11, 12 and 13. So like, what did you get, like obviously juggling Wicklow and DIT in the club, but like what did you kind of make of like kind of jumping into like the college experience them a couple of months, obviously juggling the county and thing, like how enjoyable was the college football for you over the years?
It was I'd say it was pretty the same. The first year I really tried it too much, but the final 3 years was very similar to inter-county football, because what we had a Sigerson competition that was running at the start of the National League, and we just had DIT for us years. We just so many inter-county footballers, and we were all focused on the inter-county scene as well. So we didn't get as much crack and as many nights out during that phase as you'd like. Everybody was just preparing for their next game and their next training session, whether it be with DIT or Wicklow. There was just so many different professional players there that look, football at the time was turning corner into how serious it was, and there was some players there on the drive to be very, very successful, and it's turned out that they have been.
Yeah, so that's great stuff. And we can kind of touch on the current state of affairs. I'm presuming you watched the 2020 All Ireland final, and this Dublin juggernaut's going to keep going for many years ahead, I feel. And so, how far away are the likes of, Kerry, Mayo, Tyrone, the teams that are being talked about? Like, how far away are they? Or like, is anyone closing the gap? Or do you just think Dublin are just going to get more powerful and powerful as the years go on?
It's very, very, very hard to see it not becoming just overrun with Dublin. And I know everybody, I will say that it comes and goes. Like Dublin were great in the 80s, and then there was Kerry came again, or Kerry were before in the 70s, and it just comes in waves. But I think what with applauding how good they are and how good a business they run, I just don't see it ending for quite a while. It's worrying to see how good they can get, because we all said, well, I think a lot of us said a few years ago, like that. Look, they're fantastic, but when Paul Flynn steps away, and when Bernard Brogan steps away, and when Diarmuid McConnelly steps away, like they're the ones that have really dragged them over the line in big games, and they've stepped away, and they're even more powerful now. Like, like we could well say again, like, oh well, if Fenton and Kilkenny and Conor Callahan step away or go travelling or something happens that, they might be in trouble then. It really is a conveyor belt that it's very hard to see that conveyor belt slowing down. Now look, on the other side of that is that Kerry are really, they do have a lot coming through as well. We all know that. And I'm a fond believer of any team is capable of losing on any day, and every team is capable of winning. It's all about the percentages like that. The Dublin could always have that 60% game, and Kerry or Mayo or even Westmeath or anybody can have that 100% game that can overpower them. But I think that's just a one-off more than a yearly fight.
Yeah. Like, I suppose we kind of touched on maybe the commitment and everything kind of over the years, but like, is the kind of sacrifice and commitment levels kind of through the roof at the minute, John? Because obviously with the players not getting diddly squat for it really, but like, how did you kind of find the commitment over the years? Like, did you enjoy the commitment that it brought to your life, or are you kind of thinking, Jesus, this is a lot to kind of take on board?
A fine balance, a fine mix of both of those. I was happy to do it, and now, like, at the time, I wouldn't change it because I committed to it. I gave everything I had, and that was what was required. You just had to make sacrifices. I know I sacrificed a lot, maybe with my family, not seeing them as much and missing out on quite a bit. But they all supported everything that I was doing because I wanted to play football for my club and my county, and I really enjoyed that. Now, when I say hours upon hours every week, every single night, luckily I had a very understanding wife who works quite a bit, so it didn't really interfere with her in the evenings or the nights. But it's like every night I was away. If I wasn't on the pitch, I was in the gym, trying to get my body right for the next night, and even though I wouldn't change it, it's still not healthy. I've a lot of I would have learned a lot during that period of stuff I'd like to bring through if I was going down the road of coaching and management, and how to get the best out of players, because really all we care about is a player playing well on the Sunday, and it's up to a coach or manager to find out how you get that out of them. And sometimes the player doesn't need all the rigs and reels of a training session. I'm a firm believer of splitting a team into different sections and working on what really needs to be worked on, rather than having 30 players do the exact same thing, because we're all different. No player is the same. I know there's a mantra there that we all follow, and there's a baseline that we should all do, but there's like a pick and mix then of what suits different players and different types of players. So there's a lot I would have learned during that to carry forward more than anything. Like in the last 2 years, I'm really enjoying my club football, and that's because we've very good understanding management that are they're expecting you to do a certain amount, and then if you want to do more than that, well, then that's up to you. And it's great. We're getting the most out of all our players there. So it's it's good. I don't regret anything I've done in that period, because at the time that was the information I had at the time to do what I wanted. But a lot of what I learned that hopefully I can bring with me in the next few years.
Yeah, and like kind of you remarked on like some of the Dublin lads stepping away, and I've kind of touched on this in numerous podcasts, and it's just good to get perspectives on it. Like, but I suppose, and you're probably you're hearing stuff on the ground in Wicklow there, but how can it maybe disheartening, is that the right word, I suppose, to kind of hear, say, the likes of Jeremy Connolly, Paul Mannion, and like maybe Mannion stepping away, coming back next year, and if he's fed up with the commitment, whatever, kind of what say maybe is a Wicklow player's mindset on that? God, if he's stepping away and we don't really have, like, Leinster's a bit out of our reach at the minute, kind of how disheartening is that, John? Or maybe are they just enjoying being involved, or what would be the opinion on that?
Yeah, it's isn't it nice that they have so much in their back pocket that they're able to step away? I think I was fearful of ever stepping away, because I was afraid of missing out on that one year that might win something. Yeah, it is. It's very difficult. Very difficult. Like, and what used to actually bug me the most is when you hear of and I do agree at times as well, of poor old Mayo not getting over the line, but I used to see quite a bit of the sympathy they're getting, and the kind of phrase that got me was, "Geez, how do Mayo keep going back year after year? How do those players do it?" And I was just thinking, for God's sake, they're getting to All Ireland finals, they're winning Connachts, they're getting sponsorship deals, they're getting so much more than a Carlow player, a Wicklow player, a Leitrim player. I feel a lot of I'm very fond of any player that togs out for a Division 4 inter-county team, because it's you don't get much thanks for it. There's two reasons you really play football inside, because you really love it, or because you're going to get something maybe out of it. And down in Wicklow, it was just, you just need to really love it to go back year in, year out. And luckily we do have quite a few players that are coming now, and they look like they're really enjoying it down in Wicklow at the moment. So it's disappointing to see that Dublin have such a conveyor belt, and other counties as well. But look, it's in Wicklow, we need to kind of get more club scene up to speed, which has been really improved in the last couple of years. There you can see really progressive coaches in each and every club, and I think you'll see the fruits of that coming through, because when the club scene starts to be really competitive like that, and players start to develop through the club, well, then you get a lot more out of being pushed through to the county scene then as well. So that'll be important.
Yeah, no, because it's funny you remarking that, because I suppose, like, is there enough kind of being done, like, in, like, do you feel personally in Wicklow, because you can see a lot of it in the grassroots, in the clubs, in the schools, like, to develop players, to kind of push them on to the next level?
Yeah, look, we're years behind, but it is starting. It has started. There's a lot of talk about it, and look, there's a big push in a lot of clubs. You can see it, and the great thing at the moment is we're seeing some really impressive senior teams coming out of the back of some really good work that's gone on the last few years in clubs. Like in particular, Arklow and Tinnahealy, they're two that have worked a lot of work into their underage, and at senior level they've really come good. They're really impressive. So it's good to see that we're actually, you do get the result out of it. You see a bit of a turn when it gets to senior football then. And what's great about seeing in Wicklow at the moment is, like, up until a few years ago, there's a lot of coaches you just know by them, and you can see and you know of them that they're kind of more they had been more just club men of, like, let's go at it. It looks completely different now. I can list off maybe, like, there's 6, 8, 9 clubs, senior clubs there in Wicklow at the moment, with really progressive coaches, really good coaches, more so than the strong-minded managers, and that's only good to see coming through, because I'm really confident that players will develop from that. The coaching was what we missed in Wicklow for a big spell, for a big chunk over the last few years. So it's great to see clubs really invest in good coaches.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose, kind of, before we kind of get on to your kind of personal story, and I kind of let you probably take away on that, but who would have been the best player you kind of played with and the toughest player you played against?
I don't know. Player to play with. There's so many. I could go through, like, my college team, all the Wicklow teams, but there's a player that's been in my club. No, you probably have never heard of him, but there's a guy, Joey Kelly. He's retired now, and I mean, for 10 years, he just never had a bad game, really. He just showed up week in, week out. He played, if he didn't think he played great, he'd still end up with 5 or 6 points. But look, on the bigger scale, look, you've got I'm a big fan of Aidan O'Shea, and I always had been with just seeing the way he carries himself off the pitch and on it. He's really impressive, but like, geez, he could really go through. Like, Dermot Conley played for 2 years with us in DIT, and some days he kind of just made sure that he got out of the way and just made sure the ball fell into his hand, because it was going to end up being something impressive. There's an endless list, like so many talent players. You just really can't narrow it down.
Yeah, I suppose you touched on Jeremy Conley, Aidan O'Shea, like, and what was it like to kind of play with Conley, John, because you remarked on there, like from my point of view, like, everyone's different, but I think he could have done 1 or 2 more years with Dublin, but he packed the bags. What was it like to ball with him?
It was deadly. He was at a time, he was probably at that state. That was 2009 and 2010. I played with him. I'm coming into start 2011. He was great crack, really good crack. There was actually a day we played a World Cup game against Carlo, and it was just, I think that was 2009 or the start of 2010, as me, just 2 of us full forward line, and like, he was just at that stage where he was so gifted. He hadn't realised he just hadn't realised about what he had to do to be an inter-county superstar, which he did then a few years later. But he just, like, he'd win frees, and he'd spin the ball out soccer style, and he'd clip it over the bar. Like, he was special, really, really special. Just one of these players that you just know it's not just a hard work mantra that he went on. He just had something different and special. He was incredible. But to see that was kind of my first year down in DIT. But he was you could see just the difference in him. Then when you realise when Pat Gilroy was with him then in Dublin, he just completely just changed. Where he was very serious in terms of what he wanted to do, and he knew that, I suppose, his ability wasn't going to get him to superstar inter-county football the way maybe had at underage with Dublin or with his club. But he turned out to be just such a genius. And I agree, he probably stepped away a year or 2 early, but he'd obviously been through enough and had enough to deal with that it wasn't worth it for him, maybe. So he's enough in his back pocket as well, I think, to step away with.
Yeah, he's making a few pound for his pocket now as well. But looks at all these Boyle Sports and Buku Bar and all. So fair play to the chairman, no bother to him. But look, I suppose, John, it's got to the stage of the podcast. I can probably just let you take it away here now. As I always say, there's always stuff that goes on outside of football. We'd all love to live a lovely, prosperous life and be healthy as possible. But unfortunately, that's not the case, John. And you yourself personally have a bit of a story to tell, I suppose.
Yeah, it was actually around the time of we were preparing for the 2011 Sigerson, and Mickey Hannon was over team, another Cavan man. But that day against UL, I actually just arrived for the game, and I was in such bad form. I'd played the previous 2 weeks in the National League against Carlow and Leitrim, and even though game-wise actually played very well in the 2 games, but on the way home in particular from Leitrim, I was in a bad way on the bus. My mouth was just so bad, a bad toothache, and I just wasn't in the best of form, and just felt like the weight of life on my shoulders, like I was just feeling heavy. But I arrived at Sigerson game that day, and as stubborn and ignorant as I am, tugged out and was still wanting to play a part and be involved, even though I'd been to a dentist and then to a doctor, and I was on antibiotics for, I can't remember what the antibiotics were in the end, but it just, I wasn't feeling good. So on the way home from that day, I went into the doctor again, just down the road from my apartment, and he showed a little bit more concern, and did hint at thinking that maybe a glandular fever, which is just an energy sapping problem, like. But he told me just to go home. He booked me in for blood tests on the Tuesday morning, and he said just rest up for the weekend and don't go and do anything at all. we were playing London on that Sunday. And when I was meant to be resting up over the weekend, I decided to go and tug out against London and start. And I think the game was 17 minutes in when I had the hand in the air saying, I can't move. I couldn't function. I couldn't track back. I couldn't run. I was just at a very, very bad state. So fast forward the 2 days onto Tuesday, and I got my bloods taken. I went home to my apartment, which is 200 meters up the road, and I lay in bed for the day. I was just wrecked, and I got a call later that day. He did say it'd be about 5 days to get the results of the blood test, but later that day I got a call, asked me to come back down, and I went in, and he just broke news. He said, "Look, do you know what leukemia is?" And that sticks in my mind. To ask me the question, do I know what it is? Which at the time I probably didn't, but I just knew it was bad. He told me I had to go straight to James Hospital. So I was in James Hospital that evening, 5 o'clock, and my whole family was around me by 6 o'clock, and I was up in my ward half an hour later as well. Signed into James Hospital, and so got confirmation next day of everything, that it was leukemia, and what treatment it was going to need. So it was four cycles of chemo over what was meant to be 4 to 5 months. So my first cycle was very tough. It was 26 days in basically isolation in a room. So I'm well used to isolation this year compared to it. So it was 26 days just in your hospital room. You couldn't open the windows because there's always a chance of infection coming in. So it was tough, very, very tough. And then I got home for a couple of days, which were magical. And then back in for phase 2, and same again, back out for 2 days, and back in for phase 3 and phase 4. And what was great is you're meant to kind of, they said originally that you get home for about a week in between cycles, but I think on the first one they said that it was being released on a Friday, and they said, like, we can have you back in on Monday. And I just jumped at it. I just wanted the opportunity. Yeah, the sooner I'm in, the sooner I'm back out again. So do what we have to. And what was meant to be 4 to 5 month treatment, it was 3 months and 2 days. So on the May 24th, I was discharged with no signs of leukemia in the body. So it was great. Ever since then, it's just been move as much as I can and get as much fresh air as I can and train as much as I can. And even though there's been a lot of struggles in between, I'm very grateful for everything. That's just to be able to take part in whatever I can.
Yeah, geez, without a shadow of a doubt. And I suppose I don't know if you're a worry or a panic, but I suppose when the doctor did give you that feedback, John, like how much of a setback was that? Because I'm presuming alarm bells, no football, no nights out. You know, a lot of factors to take on board, I suppose.
Yeah, I think in a spell of a couple of hours, it probably changed me as a person forever. I think before that day happened, I probably would have been a bit of you have your like everybody, you have your kind of moment where you kind of give out with something, or a bit of a, oh, that's shite, or like, I know I used to go down with a guy, Paddy Dalton, down to Wicklow train. He used to drive, and like on the way down we'd be always like, fucking laps here now. It'd be in the winter, like, fucking laps here with Miko, and the thoughts of this, like, so yeah, but within a few hours what had happened, and I just seemed to instantly just change, and it was positive, and it was a very calm and very relaxed environment, strangely enough. Like the first nurse we met in the ward, like I was walking down, and she was the lady from Kilkenny who was mad into her hurling, and she was just like, what are you doing here? Like, you're walking in perfectly healthy. Like, usually people come in here in a wheelchair. And like that just sets a very positive tone. Like, well, for me, it just set a very positive tone that we're ahead of the curve. We're very early with this. Some people are getting a wheelchair into the ward. So yeah, it was just a very weird kind of takeover of my body, where I just now try to, I know it's not that way all the time, but try to just try and just enjoy and be as positive as I can. Like if something bad's happening, I try to just deflect away and think of something else that might put me in good form. And I don't think that would have been the case with me if I didn't fall ill. So I think it changed me for the better.
Yeah. And I suppose how important is your family, teammates, friends, and all that through that whole journey, John? Because it's no cakewalk.
No, it's definitely not. It's geez, to even think about it now again, it's incredible. Remarkable. Like my whole family were up so quick, and they were just brilliant. Every day they'd land up. Like you could have 2 visitors in at a time, so they were just sitting out in the waiting room or wherever, or walk around, and they'd take their turn to come in, and they were brilliant. And my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, Carol, she every day for 3 months came in straight after work, and like my family would always say, like, Jesus, oh, we know who's coming in the door now, because I just instantly changed as well. I just smiled on my face when she was coming in. For the direct family, I'm forever grateful. And I know football has gotten in the way of a bit of a few things with family events I should have been at, and more time with them. But isn't that the whole idea of your family? That it's just unconditional love, and they just have always been there for me, and they support me and my football all the time as well. But like, they're my teammates, and just the GA community was incredible. The messages, the cards, the calls I got from people I didn't know, from teammates I did know, from people I was just friends with. Like even the kind of big name players that just somebody else knew me and they had asked them to call or text, and getting something from them gives you a lift for a day. So it's so important, like that the inter-county footballers and any sports person, that they're incredibly valuable to somebody that might be struggling, because their words means so much, and can give you a lift for a day or so. So it was brilliant, really good community.
Powerful stuff, John. Jesus, it's great stuff, and it's definitely not easy to talk about. And I suppose your club is where you finish and where you start. If you want to even touch on your club as well.
Oh, how long do we have?
Another
hour. Look, our club look, I live in Dublin here in Sandyford, and I just love getting into the car and going back down home to Wicklow for training in Bottomlass. They were brilliant with me when I played with Wicklow. They never put pressure on me. They never asked me to tug out and put me in an uncomfortable position, and they just have always been brilliant. But it's my teammates down there. I just love them down there. They're deadly. They're good lads. There's the young lads there at the moment are great crack. Some of the older guys are just real leaders. There's just such a balance and a mix. It's brilliant. But the club itself is traditionally very, very strong. 23 senior championships and a Leinster championship and a Club All Ireland in 1990. And when you have that in the club, when you have that one All Ireland club there, it's something that we all just kind of think about and think, like, Jesus, I'm part of something really big here. So there's something that just keeps me driving there to say, like, that I respect those players so much from the past, but we also want to set our own standards as well at the moment. But it's really, really good setup there. Like the clubhouse, the pitch, it's really fine facilities as well. And we've had a bit of success as well. We won the championship in 2007. We won it again in 2016, and we won it again last year in 2020. So it's been good, and looking forward to the coming year.
Yeah, and another couple of years with the club, or like will it get as many years out of you as possible?
Look, I think this time last year I was with the commute and with drive and with work and with new baby coming. I don't know where I was or where I stood. It could well have been my last year, thinking in advance like that. Geez, maybe this could be my last year. But I really think COVID has helped me. I think COVID is after giving me another couple of years, because like last year's season was compressed as a team environment. It's going to be the same again this year. And like at the moment, I love training at the moment myself. But it's on my terms. If I don't feel like I'm up to it, I can step back and I can do that session the next day, and that 24 hours can be the difference between feeling good or not. Yeah, I'd like to think that with an understanding management, I might be able to get a few more years of compressed training months. Yeah, look, I'm definitely not picking any year to be finishing yet. I'm looking forward.
Yeah. I suppose to kind of finish up, John, like what kind of advice would you give, even in a football sense, in a life sense, and just everything really, for a young fella, anyone's kind of starting off on the county team, or just in general, for even from the story you had and your personal experience and your health, what advice would you give to someone just in general, just to kind of keep a positive attitude, especially during these COVID times? What would you kind of say to keep people on track, maybe?
Yeah, my thing that I always went through, I tried to speak to as many people as I could, in terms of when if I wanted to improve my nutrition, I spoke to as many people as I could, because you can't just take one person's opinion, because everybody can influence you in different ways. So look, my advice is just to educate your mind in a view of speaking and reading and learning as much as you can, and look, maybe note down what you want to do, maybe what you want to achieve. Like I like taking notes of stuff. They're like mini goals for me. Like, yeah, you have an end goal every year or every couple of years, but every week you have to have a stepping stone to it. So I take quite a few notes and plan quite a bit in that regard. So it's, for me, it's just basically don't regret it. Don't regret anything you do. Like if you set a target of wanting to do something, follow through it and don't hold back. Don't ever hold back on anything, and have that burning desire to get to the place where you want to be. Look, it might not be what's right, but as long as you believe it's the right thing to do at that time, sure, that's the only information you have at the time to make the decision. So go ahead with it.
Yeah, John McGrath, that was absolutely brilliant. Thanks a million for joining me on the JMac Podcast this week. That podcast will be up very, very soon for everyone to enjoy. You were fantastic with your time, John, and it was a great, great story. And of course, this podcast was sponsored by Orga Retrowear for all your retro gear needs. John McGrath, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, sir.